You're walking down a long, empty corridor late at night, or along a deserted street where the only sounds are the distant hum of an air vent and the monotonous rhythm of your own footsteps. No one around. But suddenly, the skin on the back of your neck tightens. The feeling becomes almost tangible, like someone pressed a cold finger against your neck, or an invisible straw slowly sucking the warmth out of you. A heavy, sticky gaze physically pressing against the back of your skull. You whip around. Nothing. Darkness. Just your own breathing and a heart now pounding somewhere in your throat. Your brain instantly serves up the simplest, most comforting explanation. Extrasensory perception. Biofield. An ancient sixth sense. We desperately love to think of ourselves as characters from sci-fi movies. We want to believe our bodies can emit and pick up invisible waves of another mind through brick walls and across space. Okay, let's be honest. There's no magic here. Telepathy doesn't exist. The truth is far more mundane, harsher, and when you really break it down, far more interesting than fairy tales about biofields. And if right now your ancient brain made you look away from the screen for a second and listen to the silence behind you, subscribe to this channel. We're here to deconstruct these kinds of systematic glitches in our psyche. Join us before your inner paranoid makes you turn around again. Now let's pull the mask off this mechanism and figure out exactly how this illusion works. That thing you've always thought of as a mystical radar is known in scientific circles by the acronym HADD. It stands for Hyperactive Agency Detection Device. The term was coined by cognitive anthropologist Justin Barrett. And no, it's not some high-tech gadget from a secret NASA lab. It's software, a very ancient, crudely written program inside your head. It's been running in the background without your conscious permission for several million years. To understand how this software is written, we have to travel back to the Pleistocene epoch. Picture the East African savanna. Dry, sun-scorched grass up to your waist. Your survival toolkit consists of a sharpened stick, a complete lack of thick fur, and a complete lack of sharp fangs. All around you roam creatures whose teeth are the size of a good kitchen knife and whose weight tops 300 kilograms. For example, the Homotherium, a saber-toothed cat that specialized in hunting early hominids. To it, you're not the pinnacle of creation. You're just a soft, slow bag of calories that can't even run properly. In such a hostile environment, survival isn't a philosophical debate. It's pure probability math. This is where error management theory comes into play, detailed by psychologists Marty Hazelton and David Buss. Let's break that mathematical model down into two simple scenarios. Our distant ancestor hears a rustle in the dry grass behind him. He has two decision pathways. Path 1. The human turns on logic and thinks, it's probably just the wind rustling the stems. Why waste energy turning around? He's wrong. There really was a Homotherium in the grass. The outcome of that cognitive error is predictable. This particular optimist's gene pool ceases to exist a couple of seconds later in the predator's jaws. He won't leave offspring. His overly calm, rational brain is sent into evolution's trash bin. Path number 2. A human startles at every rustle. At the slightest stir in the grass, he launches into a wild leap sideways, drops his stick, scratches his face on the thorns, and runs like a pack of demons is on his heels. He's wrong, too. It was just a warm breeze blowing through the grass. The result? He looks ridiculous. He's burned through 300 kilocalories that he'd spent all day trying to scrape together. Maybe his cave mates even laughed at him. But he's still alive. That night, he'll eat his roots, fall asleep, and eventually pass his paranoid genes down the chain of generations. You and I are the direct descendants of strictly the second type. Those same jumpy, cowardly, twitchy apes who were scared of their own shadow. The ancestors of ours whose internal danger sensor was calibrated perfectly, with no overcorrections, got eaten millions of years ago. Evolution couldn't care less about your peace of mind, your logic, or your dignity. Natural selection has only one job: to make sure you pass on your genetic code before you get digested. That's why your brain still sees terrified faces in the outlines of ordinary power outlets, spots ghostly silhouettes in the folds of curtains, and makes the back of your neck go numb at the slightest draft. When it feels like someone is boring a hole in your back with their stare, your internal software is just firing off another warning. Your brain picks up microscopic shifts in the environment, a barely noticeable change in a shadow, a faint creak in the floorboard, a shift in the airflow. But instead of giving you a boring report, the wind shifted by 2 degrees, it immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. It instantaneously shoves an illusion of someone's presence into your head. That physical pressure on the back of your neck isn't radiation from someone's eyes. It's a local spasm of your own blood vessels, one that your brain deliberately orchestrated. Why? To make you turn your head and check whether something is about to snack on your cervical spine right now. But if this fear is just a glitchy survival program, then why have people for centuries sworn they can make a random passerby turn around in a crowd just by force of thought? At the end of the 19th century, scientists decided to drag that street corner mysticism into the strict confines of the lab. They brought out stopwatches, random number tables, isolated rooms, and tried to catch telepathy in the act. And that's when researchers stumbled onto a phenomenon that on the surface seemed to shatter the whole materialist framework of science. The end of the 19th century, the Victorian era, is winding down. Spiritualism, table tilting, and conversations with dead relatives around a round table in the half-dark are all the rage. In drawing rooms, serious men in tailcoats and women in corsets are passionately debating the existence of a mental fluid. They believe the human brain is a living radio transmitter capable of emitting invisible rays of will. Into this parade of mysticism steps Edward Bradford Titchener. Titchener is a stern, pedantic psychologist from Cornell University. He studied in Germany under Wilhelm Wundt himself, the father of experimental psychology. Titchener can't stand mysticism, metaphysics, or any of that grandmotherly nonsense. He trusts only brass instruments, stopwatches, and hard numbers. What drove Titchener crazy was that his students were constantly bragging about their ability to manipulate passers-by. "Professor, yesterday I was walking across campus, stared at the back of the neck of the person in front of me, freshman girl, and she turned around within 3 seconds. It works," they claimed. So the psychologist decided to put an end to this circus with a strict scientific method. In 1898, he organized a series of experiments in his lab. Picture the scene: a cold room with high ceilings, smelling of old paper, ink, and polished wood. In the middle of the room, 2 students sit back to back on heavy chairs. One is the receiver, the other the sender. No mirrors between them. The receiver sits still, staring at the wall ahead. His job is to tune into his internal sensations. Behind him sits the sender with a stopwatch. Titchener gives the signal. At random, say by coin flip, the sender either drills his gaze into the back of the person's head in front of him or conspicuously stares at the ceiling, thinking about advanced math. Each session lasts exactly 1 minute. The results were crushingly boring for esoteric enthusiasts. Titchener's statistics showed a flat 50% hit rate. 50-50. That's the mathematical equivalent of flipping a coin. If a teddy bear had been sitting on that chair instead of a student, the result would have been pure coincidence. Titchener publishes a scathing article in the journal Science. He dryly explains, "There is no gaze beam. It's just a common error of human memory." When a student stared at a girl and she turned around, that incident got etched into memory as a triumph of extrasensory perception. When he stared and she didn't turn, the brain simply erased that event as uninteresting white noise. We remember rare coincidences and completely ignore millions of misses. It's like claiming your cat can predict stock prices just because it once accidentally stepped on the right keyboard key. For nearly 100 years, science settled down. But at the end of the 20th century, Rupert Sheldrake enters the stage. Sheldrake is no street magician. He's a biochemist with a PhD from Cambridge University. But Cambridge didn't shield him from a fascination with alternative theories. Sheldrake comes up with the concept of morphic fields, invisible informational structures that supposedly connect all living things on the planet. And escapisthesia for him is the best proof of this theory. In the 90s, Sheldrake launched a massive campaign. He ran thousands of tests. He recruited school children, students, volunteers worldwide. The conditions seemed strict. Subjects were blindfolded. Masks were placed on the back of their heads to rule out thermal radiation from the observer's face. Sheldrake collected a giant dataset and made a sensational claim. The average guessing rate in his experiments was 53.1%. To the layperson, a 3% difference seems trivial. But in rigorous science, with a sample of tens of thousands of trials, a 3% deviation from chance is a statistical explosion. That can't happen with random distribution. Sheldrake triumphs, mystics rejoice. New Age publications write about victory over ossified science. But the triumph was short-lived. The academic community, to put it mildly, was astonished. Famous skeptics and professional researchers of cognitive illusions, Richard Wiseman and David Marks, decided to look under the hood of Sheldrake's experiments. What they found there resembled a methodological train wreck. Wiseman and Marks uncovered a phenomenon that science calls sensory leakage. Turns out, in Sheldrake's tests, the sender and receiver were often in the same room, just a few feet apart. Sure, the receiver had their eyes blindfolded, but their ears were wide open. Someone staring intently at another person doesn't act the same way as someone who's just bored. When the experimenter shifted their gaze to the back of the subject's head, they'd involuntarily tense up. There'd be a micro-shift in weight on a creaky wooden chair. The fabric of their clothes would rub together with a barely perceptible rustle. Their breathing pattern would change, holding their breath as they locked on with their eyes. The subject's brain, trapped in the darkness of a blindfold, would crank its hearing to the max. It would pick up those microscopic sound cues. The subconscious would process that rustle and hand the conscious mind a ready-made answer. Someone's looking at me. That wasn't telepathy. That was just a pair of ears doing an exceptionally good job. But that's not all. An even more ridiculous flaw emerged: the pseudo-randomness problem. Sheldrake let the experimenters design their own sequence of actions, when to look, when not to. But the human brain is organically incapable of generating a truly random string. We subconsciously avoid long repetitions. If we choose not to look 3 times in a row, our brain will force us to look on the 4th. The subjects, without even realizing it, would quickly decode those primitive human patterns. Their brains just guessed the experimenter's next move, like a seasoned rock-paper-scissors player predicting a beginner's throw. And when Sheldrake introduced a feedback system, telling the subject immediately whether they were right or wrong, the experiment turned into a full-on comedy. The subjects just learned. They memorized the experimenter's habits and got better at guessing with each round. When Richard Wiseman replicated Sheldrake's experiments, but eliminated all those rookie errors using a computer generator for truly random numbers, separating participants into soundproof rooms, and removing all the cues, the morphic field vanished instantly. The results obediently returned to Titchener's 50%. Case closed, right? Skeptics win, mysticism crushed, everyone go home. But then, a legitimate question arises. If it's all about auditory cues and bad math, what about blind people? There are documented cases of people with total vision loss claiming they can feel someone's stare approaching. And more than that, how do you explain medical cases where people with completely destroyed visual cortexes, physically incapable of seeing anything at all, could flawlessly tell when someone was staring right at them? Here, we leave the realm of street magic and step into genuine neurological thriller territory. We're used to thinking we see with our eyes, but eyes are just a pair of lenses, glass optics, and a light-sensitive matrix. The real magic happens deep inside your skull. Your brain processes the image in what's called the primary visual cortex. It's located at the back of your head, and in neuroscience, it's given the dry label V1. If that area gets destroyed, say from an injury or a stroke, a person goes completely blind, 100%. For them, the world shuts off forever. Absolute pitch-black darkness sets in. Their eyes might be perfectly healthy, their pupils still constrict in light, but consciousness won't get a single frame. But the human brain isn't a neatly designed processor built from scratch. It's a historical monument, architectural chaos. Our neocortex, the young, smart outer layer of the brain, is just a fancy penthouse built on top of an ancient, damp, and gloomy basement. And that basement was constructed hundreds of millions of years ago, when our ancestors weren't even mammals yet. They were reptiles and amphibians. In that evolutionary basement operates a phenomenon scientists call blind sight. The most famous and astonishing case study of this phenomenon happened in 2008. A group of neuroscientists led by Alan Pegna published a report in the journal Current Biology about a patient who went down in scientific history under the initials TN. TN had suffered 2 strokes back to back. They completely wiped out the V1 area in both hemispheres of his brain. TN became totally blind. He couldn't see a hand waving in front of his face. He couldn't tell the difference between a bright spotlight and total darkness. He moved around with a cane, bumping into corners. But Pegna and his colleagues decided to run an experiment that seemed insane. They placed the blind TN inside a functional MRI scanner. On a screen in front of his non-working eyes, they began showing photographs of human faces. The faces were of 2 types. In some images, people looked straight ahead, their gaze directed right into TN's eyes. In other images, the people's gazes were averted to the side, past him. TN lay in the scanner, genuinely clueless about what they wanted from him. He swore he could only see pitch black. He didn't even know if they were showing him anything at all. But the fMRI sensors picked up something incredible. Every time a face with a direct gaze appeared on the screen, the right amygdala in TN's brain lit up like a Christmas tree. The amygdala, that ancient emotional hub of the brain, our main generator of fear, anxiety, and aggression. It's the panic button in our head. When the gaze in the photo was averted, the blind patient's amygdala stayed completely calm. TN's brain didn't see the outlines of faces, didn't know their gender or age, but it flawlessly detected, someone is looking at me. How is that possible in complete darkness? The thing is, we have a backup, secret cable for transmitting visual signals. It bypasses consciousness. In normal life, the visual signal from the retina travels along a thick optical highway through the lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus, straight to the V1 area. There, we slowly and lazily realize, oh, that's my neighbor's face. He has a pimple on his nose, and he's kind of giving me a weird sideways look. It's a long, bureaucratic process. The brain wastes precious milliseconds on that. But if survival is on the line, this chain is too slow. While your conscious manager is signing off on the report about an approaching predator, you've already been eaten. So nature kept an ancient subcortical shortcut. The signal from the retina branches off and heads to a region called the superior colliculus. That's a deep structure in the midbrain that in reptiles served as their full-fledged vision. From there, the signal hops to the pulvinar nucleus of the thalamus. And this node, without any approvals from the cortex, fires an electrical impulse straight to the amygdala. This ancient subcortical pathway can't distinguish colors. It doesn't see textures. It couldn't care less about the beauty of the landscape. It only recognizes one specific, high-contrast, geometric shape, 2 dark circles on a light background. Pupils against the sclera, the patterns of someone else's eyes. As soon as this primitive detector picks up the pattern of a direct stare, it instantly hits the panic button. The amygdala dumps stress hormones into your bloodstream hundreds of milliseconds before your clever cortex even has a clue what's happening. The conscious cortex is a lazy, overpaid CEO. It needs time to read the paperwork. But the subcortical pathway is that grumpy old night watchman at the warehouse. He can't use a computer, but if he spots the faintest silhouette in the dark, he doesn't wait till morning. He smacks the alarm bell with a shovel right then and there. Woven into this system is the superior temporal sulcus. It's a cortical region that specializes in social analysis. It reads the tilt of someone's head, the movement of their lips, the direction of their gaze. Together with the amygdala, they form that gaze detection network. This subcortical conspiracy explains why we spin around on the subway or the street before we've even had time to think. Our inner watchman caught a glimpse of someone else's pupils from the corner of his eye, sent an alert, and the body acted on autopilot. Today, we use this incredibly fine-tuned evolutionary machinery just to notice when some weirdo on the bus is trying to peek at our phone password. But if our brain has become so masterful at processing other people's gazes at the hardware level, why does this process come with such bizarre physical special effects? Why do we break out in a cold sweat with creepy tingles crawling over our skin? And most importantly, why is man the only creature on the planet who literally painted bright bullseyes on his own face to make it easier for potential stalkers? Why does this sticky fear always hit the exact same spot? Why do we never feel someone's gaze on our knee, our elbow, or say, our heel? The signal always lands on the back of your head and the nape of your neck. The answer is in the anatomy textbook and the habits of big cats. The neck is the most vulnerable spot of any primate. From the front, there's no bony protection, just soft tissue hiding the carotid arteries, the trachea, and the vagus nerve. From the back runs the cervical spine, a slender column that, if damaged, guarantees instant and total paralysis. Every self-respecting predator of the Pleistocene, from leopards to saber-toothed tigers, never wasted time biting legs. They'd pounce from behind and snap the prey's neck. So evolution turned our neck and the back of our head into a zone of extreme sensitivity. Two major nerve cables are in charge of gathering information here, the greater occipital nerve and the lesser occipital nerve. Their endings wrap around the skin of the back of the head and the nape like a hypersensitive spider web. As soon as that subcortical guard in your brain spots a potential threat, it doesn't send you a text notification. It launches a chemical attack. The signal from the amygdala zips straight to the hypothalamus, which then activates the sympathetic nervous system. Your adrenal glands clench and dump a killer dose of adrenaline and noradrenaline into your bloodstream. The stress hormones make your heart beat faster to pump blood out to your big skeletal muscles, because you're about to either run like hell or fight for your life. But your body's resources are limited. To give more blood to your thighs and biceps, it has to take it from somewhere, and the brain takes it from your skin. Vasoconstriction kicks in. Your peripheral blood vessels in the epidermis suddenly tighten. Blood literally drains from the surface of your body. Your skin temperature drops several degrees in seconds. And right at that moment, on your hypersensitive neck, deprived of warm blood flow, you feel that physical sensation of an icy draft. It feels like a cold stream of air trickling down the back of your head. But there's no draft in the room. It's just your own blood retreating deep into your muscles, leaving your neck to freeze. Next comes piloerection. Wrapped around every hair follicle on your body is a tiny smooth muscle, the erector pili. Under the influence of norepinephrine, these microscopic muscles contract all at once. They tug on the skin around each hair, creating little bumps. We call that goosebumps. For our hairy ancestors, this reflex had deep practical meaning. In danger, all the fur on their necks would stand on end. The animal would visually puff up to 1.5 times its size, meant to demoralize an attacking predator. Plus, the raised fur created a thick air cushion, protecting the neck from bites. Today, we barely have any thick fur left, but that ancient program still runs faithfully. And when you feel the hair on the back of your neck prickle, it's your brain trying to fluff up a non-existent mane to scare off an imaginary saber-toothed tiger on the subway. You look like a plucked chicken, but your evolutionary code is convinced you're now freaking fierce and huge. But why are we so afraid of being stared at? Why do we give away our attention so easily? Look into the eyes of any animal, your pet dog, a horse, or a chimpanzee at the zoo. You'll notice their eyes are dark. You can barely see the white sclera. The iris takes up almost all the visible space, and the sclera itself is pigmented brown or yellowish. In the wild, showing exactly where you're looking is a deadly move. If you're a predator, your prey will know who you've targeted and escape in time. If you're prey, the predator will know you've spotted it and adjust its attack plan. And within a primate troop, a direct stare is always a challenge for dominance. So animals hide their pupils, masking their gaze direction. Humans took a special suicidal path. We are the only primates on Earth with a large, bright white sclera that contrasts with a dark pupil. Anthropologist Michael Tomasello explained this in his cooperative eye hypothesis. Humans didn't survive because we were the strongest or fastest. We survived because we learned to work in gangs, to cooperate at a level animals never dreamed of. During a mammoth hunt, our ancestors needed a silent communication system. You can't shout, "Hey, mammoth on the left," or it'll run off. But you can just shift your gaze to the right bush. Thanks to the white sclera, your comrades from 10 to 15 meters away instantly knew where your attention was directed. We literally painted huge white targets with black dots in the center on our faces. We put our thoughts and intentions on display for the sake of effective teamwork. But this coin had a dark side. Since we made our eyes incredibly conspicuous, we had to evolve hypersensitive receivers too. Our brains became obsessed with tracking those white targets on other people's faces. We scan for someone else's attention with paranoid precision. And that's where we hit the real psychological puzzle. The hardware part makes sense. The brain can spot other people's gaze subconsciously, and your body reacts with a jolt of adrenaline and goosebumps. But how does this complex biological machine manage to trick itself in everyday life? Why do we turn around so often and actually find someone staring at us, even when there are no tigers or mammoths around? Now we're going to break down the final piece of this trap, the psychological trick we keep pulling on our own mind. Before we put all the pieces of this cognitive puzzle together, we need to talk about our ears. Here's the thing, we dramatically underestimate our hearing. Most people believe they only hear what they pay attention to. But your ear isn't just a lazy listening tube. It's an incredibly sophisticated acoustic radar that runs 24/7. Your outer ear, that weird, bumpy shape, isn't just for looks. Its folds and ridges work as a physical filter. They distort sound waves depending on the angle and direction they come from. Your brain uses a mathematical model called the HRTF, Head-Related Transfer Function. Plus, your brain masterfully calculates what's known as the interaural time difference. If a microscopic sound, say denim fabric rubbing together or a quiet sigh, happens behind you and slightly to the right, the sound wave will reach your right ear just a few microseconds before your left ear. To your conscious mind, that difference is imperceptible. But your subconscious computer instantly registers that delay, compares it with the distortions from your ear shape, and calculates the exact coordinates of the noise source behind you. You didn't consciously hear the sound, you didn't register it in your thoughts, but your subconscious already knows there's someone behind you to the right. It sends a tiny wave of adrenaline through your body, causing the blood vessels in your neck to constrict. You feel a tingle, a sense of unease. You turn around, and that's when the main trap snaps shut, the self-fulfilling prophecy, or behavioral feedback loop. Picture a typical scenario. You're sitting in a quiet office or a cafe. Suddenly, your head's internal radar glitches or picks up a micro noise. The skin on the back of your neck goes numb. You're certain someone is drilling you with their eyes. You whip your head around 180 degrees to catch the culprit red-handed. And, surprise, your coworker sitting 3 desks behind you is indeed staring right at you with a dumb look on their face. Aha! Your brain exclaims. I told you it was telepathy. I physically felt their gaze on my back. Now let's look at this scene from your coworker's perspective. They were sitting at their desk, lazily chewing a pencil, thinking about lunch or how to pay the mortgage. Their gaze was completely blank and unfocused. They were just staring into space, looking straight through you. Then all of a sudden, a bright, dynamic event enters their field of vision, someone's head making a sharp, whip-like turn 180 degrees. To any primate's brain, a sudden movement in space is a powerful visual trigger, the unconditional attention reflex. If something suddenly moves nearby, you have to look immediately to assess the threat. Your colleague's eyes automatically, on pure autopilot, snap to your jerking head. You finish turning around, your eyes meet, and you see him looking at you. You're sure he was looking at me before I even turned. The harsh reality, he looked at you because you turned. You created that very gaze you were trying to detect. You made him look at you with your own sudden movement. It's a classic vicious cycle, a behavioral illusion that our brain stubbornly refuses to acknowledge. And what really cements our belief in ESP is the survivorship bias in our memory. If we hired an impartial mathematician to follow you around for a month with a notepad, recording every time you turned your head, we'd get some funny statistics. In a day, you turn around from vague unease maybe 100 times. In 99 of those cases, you turn and see absolutely nothing interesting. Someone typing on their phone, someone sleeping, someone looking out the window, or someone walking away in the other direction. No one was staring at the back of your head. Your brain instantly marks these episodes as junk data and deletes them from short-term memory within 5 minutes. They're useless to it. But on the 100th time, the coincidence works. You turn, and your eyes really do meet someone else's. That single case, the brain carefully packages up, slaps a bright neon sign on it, and files it away in long-term memory under the heading, "Irrefutable proof of my psychic powers." So a year later, you've completely forgotten thousands of false head turns, but you perfectly remember those 3 times you turned and locked eyes with a stranger. We desperately want to feel special, so we happily collect coincidences and toss dry statistics in the trash. We act like the guy who claims he can control traffic lights with his mind, just because once he walked up to an intersection and the light turned green. So next time you're walking down a dark alley and you feel that invisible, cold hand grip the back of your neck again, don't go looking for ghosts, murderers, telepaths, or Rupert Sheldrake's morphic fields. Just smile quietly and keep walking. Realize what an incredible, high-tech biological orchestra is playing inside your body at that moment. Ancient subcortical pathways working at light speed, bypassing your slow consciousness. Hypersensitive occipital nerves. A norepinephrine surge and vasoconstriction shunting blood to your muscles. Rudimentary follicle muscles trying to raise non-existent fur on the back of your neck. And your ears, measuring sound delay in millionths of a second. None of this is a paranormal glitch in the Matrix. It's a magnificent shield, polished by millions of years of evolution. A powerful defensive complex of a nervous, frightened monkey that managed not to become someone's lunch in the Pleistocene. Paranoia is the only reason you're standing here today, able to talk about science. The back of your neck gets cold so that you stay alive.